Hey, it's Joey Balladonna here from Anthrax, and this is SAGAS.
Well,
look, this is a big one.
I didn't break out and join the podcast today.
It is now time for Devil's Advocate. Same time, same place, awesome.
What's going on, everybody? This is Corbin, the Serpent Tongue Skipwith.
And this is Ran, the Berserker Marabou. And this is...
SAGAS.
Welcome.
Welcome to episode 59.
Ooh,
59. Five. Before we continue, because I'm obligated, because the fuck himself, John Sorrell, won't let it go. So, Morgrot. Nah, I love you, John. So, Morgrot is a physical issue by, as I just said, John Sorrell, the fuck himself. John Sorrell, it's really interesting. He does reviews, interviews, written interviews, and artwork. He promotes a lot of artists who may otherwise never got the time of day. So it's really cool. He's a bunch of different artists, from journalism to photography to, as I said, interviews. It's really cool. Really worth checking out. It's quite a thick book. I mean, it's a pretty standard book that he's in charge of. He makes sure what's in it. He takes care of it all, the physical copies. Real good guy. And this is our SAGAS issue. You can't really see it, the stupid green screen. But our SAGAS issue has our logo on it. And because of our collaboration, it's going to have the SAGAS logo on every printing going forward, which is so thick. I'm very happy with that. And the next issue to come out will feature, as the headlining artist, There's Only One Elvis for his new album, which I've already written the review and sent to him. And I do most of the reviews for each upcoming Morgrot as part of our collaboration. So go and check that out. It's really fun. He also hands out these serial killer cards. Each month each release, you get a serial killer card. I got Charles Manson's my first one. And he did tell me who will be getting next, but I forgot. Anyway, it's really cool. I guess it's part of a board game eventually. So if that's your thing, it's sick. If it's not, throw it out. Who cares? Or just tell him you don't want a serial killer card. I'm sure he'll be happy to oblige your request if you don't want. Either way, it's really sick. Yeah, a local content added to it. Plus, you get like a CD as well inside. So you get a lot of good value. He's doing a lot for the underground music scene, metals specifically. And it's really cool because we've come to an agreement where the payment for my services is that he has to watch one New Japan match every release. So of my choice. So I figure that's the best payment. And he's already done his for the next release. So he's all set for that. But yeah, so real cool guy. Go check it out. Link will be at the top as always. Morgrot, John Sorrell, cool guy, worth the shout out.
Nice.
Yes, excellent. Good old John. Has easily the heaviest taste of metal in a person I've ever seen. His soft days is like Cannibal Corpse. So he's fun. Anyway, if you want to, do the obviously introduction, since it was your choice last week.
This week I picked one of my favorite albums, and I was, putting off. You know me, man. When it comes to picking an album, I try not to pick something that I'm gonna like fanboy over and just get really excited on because I get too giddy and I can't really concentrate on what I'm doing. But this is one of those albums that's borderline getting me all giddy and excited. It's a 2017 album by Trivium, The Sin and the Sentence. So it's a absolutely kick-ass album released by Roadrunner Records, and it features one of our generation's most prolific and talented metal artists, Matt Heafy. Matt Heafy, as everybody knows, is just one of those figures, and Trivium have been put into recent years in like this modern day big four, with Slipknot and I think Korn and whoever else is in the big four. I don't know, but yeah. So I just thought this was their comeback album in a way from their heavy days. They had a bit of trouble with the heaviness. I'll get into that after. And then this one, they just said they threw all the dice out. They said, let's do it. And they released one of their best albums, in my opinion. So what did you think, bro?
Well, first, First of all, let me just talk about the sin in your sentence. First of all, that list was the most jumbled thing I've ever heard in my life. How you combine Trivium, Korn, a band from the early '90s, and Slipknot, a new metal band.
I didn't make it. Wow. I don't know who made this, but like as far as I know, Slipknot are in there in this new made up Big Four. I don't know.
But why is Korn?
I don't know. It's the kids, man. It's weird. Not me.
You should have kept that corn on a cob.
Corn on a cob. Oh.
Anyway, okay. First thing I will say, as far as the legacy and the notoriety that Trivium have achieved, that is all true. They are definitely in a league of their own, because of, you know, their discography is above average compared to others. You know, I think as a band, they do have some kind of standard to them, this invisible standard that we all expect of Trivium because of who they are. You know, some band, you know, I don't know about most bands, but there are other bands out there where every release you just take it like, all right, new album, let's see, good or bad. You know, I think Trivium has one of those kind of like bands like, because kind of like bands like Tool in a way. It's like every release you're expecting this extravaganza. I think in the same kind of way with these boys. And I just want to start, obviously, actually, again, before I get into the actual critique of this album, a bit of fun trivia about trivia for Trivium that I've gathered over my years, because I've been listening to these boys since I was a teenager. Number one, their 2013 album, The Vengeful Ones, or something like that, was produced by David Draymond.
Nice.
By Disturbed. So I can imagine that's a very tone-deaf record. I haven't heard it, but I know David Draymond is actually tone-deaf. That's not a joke. He is. So who knows what that turned out to be. On the album In Waves, which was the album I gravitated towards after Shogun, in that album, there was a very interesting thing that happened between streaming services and CDs, because on certain releases, the first song on that album starts off with In Waves. That's the first track. Now, on some releases, it's a 7-minute track that has the whole song, In Waves, this amazing intro, and then the song In Waves. But on some official releases, it had intro as track 1 and then track 2 In Waves. So it separated the long intro, but then some releases has the first track, 7 minutes, the whole thing, intro plus song combined. I always find that interesting because it always depended on where you got the album from, streaming or CD. It was always different. So I always found it pretty funny because, yeah, sometimes you get the intro and the In Waves, and sometimes you get the whole long song In Waves. Anyway, just a rule. And also on their album, the album with the white cover, with the demon face.
Yeah,
that one. It is 90% clean vocals by Matt Healy, because he had a problem with his vocal cords at that time, and I think he was like ordered by the doctor not to scream to fix his vocal cords. So there was a lot of clean vocals, and I remember my friend at the time telling me that his older brother told him to stay away from that album because it was apparently shit because of the no screaming, which I can imagine for a band like Trivium, you do need that 50-50. You know, I can imagine sounding weird without it, which obviously is not a problem on this album. You have the proper both. Now, I know that was a long, weird explanation, but to my critique of this album, you know, is it a good album? Yes, but I think for me personally, and obviously this is going to be a controversial opinion because I'm looking at the reviews, I'm looking at the critical acclaim, and I'm not saying it doesn't deserve what it's getting. You know, we're talking 4.5 out of 5, 4 out of 5, like, you know, 8.5 out of 10, like all these amazing reviews about it. Some people saying it's the best Trivium album to date, but I feel like as someone who was almost cult level addicted to the album Shogun, I feel like that's the status of Trivium that I hold to myself. That's, you know, I feel like on this one, there's less cinematic value, there's less theatrical value to what I remember on that album. And obviously I could be talking from just a completely biased standpoint, and I most likely am, but when I was listening to this album, I just felt like I was listening to, even if it's just for a tiny bit, I was listening to a watered down version of Shogun. And I know that's not fair because, you know, obviously obviously you shouldn't be making the same album twice, and you have to expand. And I'm not saying they haven't made good music, because there is a lot of good music on this album. It's just I was listening to it, I just felt like it didn't have the same, I think sustenance might be the word, as it did from the 2008, 2007 album Shogun. So that's my initial opinion, you know, and obviously, like I said, it's not popular because it's got nothing but critically acclaim, which it does deserve. It's just, I don't know, maybe I just spent too many hours, too much time fanboying over that album I keep talking about, and maybe it's just kind of dulled me to any new experience I can get from Trivium, but that's my initial thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, like that's quite you know, it's an opinion whenever you have a band that you love from a young age or a long time back, you know, and they produce something that's different. If it sounds remote different, it seems like a massive change in the band, and it does kind of like, it's hard to kind of get into. But I actually only became a fan of this band during the Shogun era, funny enough. So I kind of liked that album. I thought it was really good. I thought that it was interesting. But and they were trying to get rid of the stigma of have you disappeared, or am I imagining? I was like, is he gone? I was like, fucking hell, man. Just I was like, he doesn't agree with what I'm saying. He's just left. Yeah, but yeah, anyway, to go fucking magical disappearing man. But actually, to go back to what I was saying earlier, I got it wrong. It's actually Avenged Sevenfold, Lamb of God, and Slipknot with a fucking bracket, maybe Korn is this big four of the modern era. Some people are saying. So who knows? That's up to everybody else to decide. Who knows? But the guy who produced this album actually worked with a lot of these bands. Josh Wilbur. He's a really cool, enthusiastic engineer and producer, and he's worked with Korn, Lamb of God, Trivium, obviously Day to Remember, Avenged Sevenfold, Megadeth, loads of, list goes on and on and on. Tenacious D, Papa Roach, you know. So he's had some mega artists through his studio, and he has a really cool approach. You know, it's a no nonsense, but it's very much getting the artists to get the best out of themselves. And I think in a lot of ways, this album was really needed, and they needed to work with him because, like you said, Silence in the Snow album was, because on a tour, like you said, Matt lost his vocals, and he was afraid when he went back into the studio. He was like, I don't want to do another album where I'm just doing clean vocals, even though, in my opinion, he actually done a really good job on his clean vocals. And he's been working close with his vocal coach. I forget the coach's name, but the same vocal coach works with Corey Taylor, and I'm pretty sure Tremonti as well. And if you think about the clean vocals of those three men I just described, or just named out, they all have a very similar tone to their voice. Whatever way this man is teaching them to sing, he's getting them all in the same direction. Obviously, that's his way of teaching. It's really remarkable. It's cool to hear the links between, like, there's some tracks in this album that could be Mark Tremonti singing, like, flat out. Like, it just sounds very similar. But so the thing that stands out for me with this album is it's a brave album. Matt went into the vocal booth and said, you know what? I've been singing for the last, couple of years with this technique. I'm going to throw it out the window. And this is something I've often mentioned on the podcast. He literally just said, right, fuck it. It's going to hurt, but it's only going to hurt for a while, and it's not going to damage me permanently. So he got into the vocal booth, and he launched out some massive vocals, like fearless, heavy fucking vocals. And that's the minute I heard that's what he was going back in to do, because they released like a 4-part behind the scenes before they released the album, and you got to get a sense of the album and everything. And I was like, yeah, man, he's back. He's back doing his heavy vocals. He's not afraid. And, oh, man, he just produced some of the best vocals he's ever done. So, I don't know. That's where I kind of lean on the Shogun to hear. There's something out, like, in a depth kind of way of, like, the human side of this album. They really push that. So, I don't know.
That's exactly, you kind of read my mind on that, because actually, before I can do that, it's weird. I remember seeing on like Australian Idol, which for all of you, it's like, this. I think every country has the show where singers go on and try to win. I remember seeing a vocal coach. It was a woman, and I remember she said that like she was a vocal coach for like Trivium and like Bullet for My Valentine and stuff, and I just remember her being on there saying that. I don't know if it's true or not, but anyway, that aside, you brought up the human side, which is exactly what I was going to talk about. I think that might be one of the things that kind of detract me from liking this album as much as I should, because again, I'm going to reference Shogun a lot, so just deal with it. Not you, to the fans. So when I'm listening to the album, and I listen to it quite often because I love the album, you have such themes like "To How We March." There's even a song about fucking global warming, "Down from the Sky." We talk about about war and global warming, and even they make that sound badass. But for example, in the first track of that album, of Shogun, you have this, it all feels so magical. It feels so like kind of like Lord of the Rings-ish, very fantasy driven. And I think maybe that's the level I expect Trivium to be, because on the song Kiristu Gomen, which is the first track of Shogun, the chorus in a very savage way goes, and I'll take their fucking heads, and I'll take their it's just like, and then a crazy guitar riff, I'll take their fucking heads, and like like I said, into the mouth of how we march, torn between Scylla and Charybdis, he who spawns the Furies. It's so fantasy driven, and I think maybe for me, that's what I expect. I guess I was listening to this album locked in. I'm like, all right, this band is a badass fantasy driven metal band. Go. Like I guess I didn't have any room in me to imagine them. It's like, it's like how you can't imagine a band like Slayer suddenly doing like a heartfelt "I love you, baby girl." You just can't imagine that. So it's like, I think in the same breath, I just could, because I hear songs like "Betrayal" or "The Heart from Your Hate," and I'm just like, dude, are they really talking about? Is he really talking about broken hearts? Like, what happened to the "Take Your Fucking Heads"? Like, what the fuck happened to that? Like, and I don't know. I guess it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But look, the style that they're doing, obviously, as you said, Matt Heafy, it's just, I think as a Trivium fan, you expect, I think it makes sense that, I think as a Trivium fan, you expect harsh mixed with clean. I don't think anyone has a problem with his clean, because obviously he does both, and he does them both very well. I think it's just when you do a whole album of clean, I think that's when one dominates the other too much. I think it'll be the same problem if the album just had heavy, just had screams. I think people would hate that as well, because you need that balance that Trivium have so brilliantly given us. It's just, I don't know. I can see that they're trying to, involve, as one critic said. Let me find it. One critic said for this album, the very first to meld every previous release into the very best Trivium album. And I understand that's what they might be going for, but to me, it's just like they've lost their cinematic edge. They've lost their fantasy-driven aesthetic, which is why I fell in love with them in the first place. And I guess, I mean, talking about it now out loud, it could just be that I'm not ready to accept that level of lyrical change from Matt Heafy. Stylistically, obviously the production's good. They sound the same. Like they have the same shredding guitars, the same well done production. It's just, I think when I'm listening to the lyrics, I'm just like, this isn't the Trivium that I remember, and that could just be on me. That could just be me not being open, and see it. But I'm just obviously, just I can't help but just give my honest thoughts on these things.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough. I mean, like my favorite way of writing is to write about mythology or fantasy or something like that. It really gives this otherworldly kind of vibe from music. But and you could have a dead on point on that one. But which I never really thought about, actually, because what really stands out on this album for me is the introduction to Mr. Alex Bent on the drums. My God, is that guy gifted? Like, holy shit. They, for a long time, they had Travis was one of the original members on the drums. He done amazing work, and he left, and they had other guys jump in and out. And when the minute Alex started in the band, he just blended in so well, but his musicianship just took their technicality up to another level. Like the minute you hear singing the sentence, the drums on that track, it's just like, oh my God, even if you're not a drummer, you can literally sit there and go, holy shit, this is incredible musicianship. And he's got a really good, laid back, modest kind of attitude as well, which is probably why he's still in the band, and it's all worked out really well. It's what they really needed, was like to be able to work on the technical side, because they did always make really technical songs, and it was all very elaborate riffs and lead stuff and everything. But now it just pegs it up to another level for me. So from there, it really pushed up their production and everything. Everybody was like, right, we got to step up our game and really get this going. So, I think I might be a little blindsided from the musicianship on this album to really recognize the lyrics. The lyric content, obviously the lyrics stand out, because they have the big anthems still. They have the big, punchlines, and that was another thing that was worked on in the studio. Like, he'd get him to do the big lines. He'd get him to do his vocals, and then the big punch words, I like to call them, that make the song really stand out in these specific hooky sections. But like you think about, obviously Corey is a very established guitar player who is only a couple of months older than me. So like, he's been around. He's played a lot of guitar. Like, he's a proper gifted man. And Matt, being 37, has done so much in that short. He's only 37. Like, he's done an awful lot in his music. You think about, he's guested on how many albums over the years. A few to note is like, he played on a games, The Game, No More, and Defenders by Dragon Force. All killer tracks. Like, He's guested on Upon a Burning Bodies song, Any Given Sunday, In Vain. He done guitar on Malevolence, which is just, it's a high compliment to get asked to play on a Malevolence track, like, guitar wise. Like, so he's been a front runner for Roadrunner Records for since he was like, a very young man. So he's done an awful lot for music. I remember getting that Roadrunner United or something. It was like remember the album? Anybody who doesn't know, it was an album that all the Roadrunner artists all guest on, and they made this record. And I remember his was the first song on the album, I think, that he was involved in, and it was just sick. Like, I was like, oh my God, this chap. And he was very young. I think he was only in his like early 20s or something. But yeah, so musician wise, like Paolo as well. Paolo's got a wicked bass. Like, he uses that big fat 5-string Warwick bass, and it just rips through the tracks, So, it's a 57-minute album, which doesn't feel like it. You always say, bro, about like, this album just kind of glides through. You probably say the opposite about this one, because you're wanting it to sound like fucking Shogun, but like, to me, this album flies through. It's got like, there's loads of different tempo changes. It's not all just one big fast song. There's a couple of slow burners as well. But for nearly an hour long, it's quite a quick album for me anyway. It won Grammys and stuff as well, didn't it? You looked up the awards, did you?
Let's see. Well, it charted number 1 in the UK rock and metal albums, number 1 in US top hard rock albums, number 3 US top rock album Billboard, and number 4 in Australian albums. And then the rest are pretty average. Number 84 in Italian, Italy. Apparently, Italy aren't feeling Trivium. But it is not like the whole time I was listening to this, I was like, no, I wasn't doing that. But like I said, because really my whole life up until realistically up until now, with this recommendation for the podcast, I was going through my whole life. I was going through Shogun and In Waves. Shogun in waves, just back and forth. That's the only Trivium I listened to for a decade. About, I don't know if In Waves came right after Shogun or not, but it was the album anyway that I remember. The only other album besides Shogun, and that epic first song In Waves, and it's like how depressing. Like talking about the lyrics for the song In Waves are the song. Do I end this all for the world to see in waves? Do I take everyone else down with me? Like, he just doesn't give a fuck. He's like, I want to drown you all. And then screaming in waves. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. I think, I get so wrapped up in that fantasy element. I think it just kind of like I mean, I'm sure if I had listened to, in that 10 years, till now, if I had like listened to other albums and kept up with Trivium's releases, I'm sure I'll be a lot more open-minded than I am now, probably. But because I went straight from 2008, 2011, whenever In Waves came out, all the way to 2017, 10 years gap, I think that's when, because me, I'm not very good with changes. So like when that comes, I'm just like, motherfucker. Yeah. But no, look, at least I can talk from the production, the instrumentation side of things. It's not like they've suddenly gone synth pop. Like, they've stuck, although that would be pretty interesting to hear a fucking synth pop group, but no. As far as all that goes, it's it's what you think they would sound like. It's heavy, it's technical, it's creative, it's it has the larger than life feel that you would expect from a Trivium album. It's just, I think really that all that gets me is the and obviously I still think listening to them, they do have a little bit less of a little bit less of a cinematic flair to them as they used to, except for one song which I'll talk to obviously soon. But yeah, so the production and instrumentation side is perfect. It's just when I and obviously the song names are they sound brutal. The wretchedness inside, the Reverend Christ, fucking. And then you got a bitch named Beauty and the Sorrow, but we'll forget about that. The sin and the sense. So it's still the Trivium in theory that I remember. It's just a few songs when I listen to the lyrics, I'm just like, it just sounds weird. But what's funny is, whenever this band's brought up, they're considered, because every band has a subgenre that they're labeled onto, and it's just funny how they're called prog metal, and it's just like. It's funny because it's like, I guess if Pink Floyd had a wedding out of wedlock with Slayer and then had a bastard kid, I guess that's what Trivium would sound like. They take nothing from the original forefathers of prog metal, but they still have those little increments of prog, like the larger than life feel, or the extended guitar solos, which actually reminded me a lot of Dragon Force in this album, because there was a lot of like moments where it's just like extended guitars, and they had a few of that back in the Shogun era, but because they had the cinematic and theatrical feel to it, you didn't really feel it as much. But with this one, you feel those 2-3 minute solos, and you're just like, fuck, like it just reminds you of Dragon Force, because at least in Dragon Force they had the tongue in cheek to have the guy like eating nachos on the music video, and he's just like, like they had tongue in cheek to do that, but it's just like, yeah. So there's a lot of elements where I thought, oh, this reminds me of this, and this reminds me of this, but yeah, for all the shit I'm giving it, as far as the album itself goes, everything else, but a handful of lyrics, it does, yeah. Especially how long they've been in the game for, it definitely is impressive. They definitely do have one of the stronger discographies in metal for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like they have a really strong discography, as you say, and also they've tried to evolve as a band. That's the thing. Like a lot of bands that get to their level just kind of put it in cruise mode, which is probably why some fans would feel the way you feel, and some might feel the way I feel. Like they've gone from recording out, like some artists will mix and match their guitar tuning. And most will, do a couple of songs like, in a different tuning. But these guys do like a whole record. They've started off in drop D, with Crusade and Ascendancy, and then they went on to C sharp, which is probably the sound you were digging on, and then they went to B flat in Silence in the Snow, and then it's gone down as far as C sharp again. But then as far as I know now, they've gone like right down to like G or something on their new stuff. So like they're always pushing the boundaries of their own ability and their own sounds. And you know, the brand newer stuff is just kind of outrageous in the technical side because of the addition to Alex, I was saying. But yeah, no, it's just I have a lot of respect for Matt as a person, as well as just being a musician. Like, he's an incredible musician, but funny enough, he wasn't actually the first singer in Trivium. You know, he was. Now this is going back to like, he was 13 when he was in Trivium. They made their first demo when he was 13. There was a guy just before that, like probably like a fucking 12-year-old. So it doesn't really count, but there was another singer. It doesn't count unless you're releasing records, I don't think. But like, you know, he likes to say, "Oh, I wasn't the first singer." And there was another guy that was in the band before that played guitar but never played with them. There's all these kind of funny stories about how. But like, you think about it, he was 13 years of age when he was joined this band. Like, it's, you know, it's unreal to have that kind of dedication to one band for all this time. But that's what he is. He's a really hard-working, no-nonsense kind of dude. Like, I seen him recently getting his jiu-jitsu black belt, and he was walking through like, did you ever see like a tunnel where people have their hands over and you walk under and they kick you or something like that?
Yeah,
it's just like the jiu-jitsu version where he had to walk through like a row of people either side, slapping them with like belts, you know, like jiu-jitsu belts, and he had to just walk, you know, with his top off, just walk in and walk back again. It's pretty cool, but it just kind of shows the kind of mental capacity that this man has for, like, you know, just being in the zone and doing things right. And he has this Twitch streaming thing as well. Like, I'm not on Twitch, but I see quite a lot of those videos posted on YouTube and Facebook and stuff. And it's just him sitting back, you know, playing his guitar and singing for people. Like, you know, some people will be like, "Dude, sing this song from this album," and he'll do it. And I think he's into gaming as well on Twitch as well, but I'm not sure. But he has a really big following just as his human side, you know. His personality is really cool, man. It's really inspiring. And I've always wanted his Les Paul Epiphone signature model that he brought out. It's like this, it was based on his Gibson custom that he had when he was starting out his career. And they made him this 7-string, beautiful EMG pickup, sick, like active pickup, sick guitar. And then he brought out, like, for Silence in the Snow, he brought out a white version with whited out pickups and a white fretboard. It was absolutely gorgeous. Fuck, I would love one of them. But he's got this really unique style as well of his guitar straps. He has this signature one that comes up over the two shoulders, right? And it just kind of goes to show, like, he's a very rigorous, very, like, professional, and he wants to keep his posture correct, like, you know, and he doesn't drink. He doesn't act a maggot. Like, he's just he was what personifies a professional musician. And that's what I have so much respect for him for that. Like, you see Corey's a lot more laid back, the guitar player. He'd be there sculling beers and, you know, just doing his thing, you know, and it worked for him, you know. But it's even more, you know, amazing to see when, you know, maybe there's a couple of guys in the band, but then there's somebody that's just like really like straight-laced in a positive way and doing his job and taking care of business. Like, it's really inspiring. Like, it's amazing. And you talk about how many amazing albums these guys have had and their evolution of it, and it's just a beautiful thing, you know. There's not many people that could pull off what they've pulled off over the years, and they're still going strong. What's the name of the new album? The new album, I only listened to it a little bit. In the Court of the Dragon. Actually, did they release a new one after that? Hang on, I think that might be wrong. They did. That was 2021. They released a new one this year. Actually, no, it was only a single. My bad. Implore the Darkened Sky, and that's a beast of a track, bro. You should just listen to that one song later. But it's funny you're saying about Shogun. Like, for me, Trivium, I would go from Shogun to In Waves, and then I'd listen to Sin in the Sentence, and then I'd go back to Silence in the Snow. But it's always forgotten in my circle anyway, is Vengeance Falls, their 2013 album. Like,
Yeah, David Draymond.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a little, it kind of fell off the radar a little bit. I don't know why, you know, we're a big name producer, and I know he's tone deaf and everything, like, but you know, which I still can't get my head around. Like, I've worked with some tone deaf guys over the years, bro, and it doesn't work. Like, it's crazy. But since this album, they've released 3 albums, actually no, 2 and 1 they're working on. What the Dead May Say was 2020, and In the Court of Dragons, like I said, was 2021. So they have so much material, and they're still going. And you know, it's just really cool to see that they're just constantly evolving. I'm really interested to see what they do with this new album. If it is in drop G or G standard, it's gonna be outrageous tonally. Like, it's just gonna be outrageous. But yeah, 100% props off to the boys, and wish them all. I mean, they've headlined some massive shows. Like, they've, you know, watching them playing like Wacken and Bloodstock and all the big ones, Grass Pop, and the performances are absolutely perfect. Like, I'll use the word stupendous with these boys, you know, because that's what they are. They're just clinically professional, sick, really down to earth, proper humans. Skull.
I was gonna say, I think maybe the entire metal community around the world must have had the same thought I had when that 2013 album came out. They went, "Who produced it?" No.
Yeah.
I think
Pretty
they
much
must have. Yeah. Because I mean, every Disturbed song does sound the same. I'm not saying they're a bad band. I'm saying it, and I know, and you can't help it. You can't blame the guy. That's if he's tone deaf, he's tone deaf. But yeah, so still, yeah, I'm sure one day I'll check it out. But yeah, I'm pretty sure back in the day I must have seen that and gone, no. All right. Before we get to our segment, we want to hear, who do you want to promote?
Well, this week I would like to discuss, just to mention, because Matt and the boys, Matt started his band in Orlando, Florida, which is somewhere which I'm hoping to get over to very soon, to the next side of the state in Tampa Bay. I want to shout out United Music Mafia and all the boys and all the crew over there that so kindly look after my band and my music. Anybody you know, they have such a big business company, if you will. You know, Big Sean, OG Big Sean, is always chatting about his tech company. He's got his social medias. He's got his band promotion, PR, you know, room for artists of all kinds, even comedians and athletes for the boxing side of things. They pretty much have somewhere for everybody that has some talent or creative outlet that they want to explore. There's room there for them. So big shout out, seeing as these guys are Florida, big shout out to our boys over in Florida.
Nice. I think I'm going to give the Viking Trinkets a shout out. Our boys, I think, stationed in New Zealand. So Viking Trinkets, they make these amazing Viking accessories, as Rena's showing you. Mine's always around my neck. We have the same thing. Amazing silver and gold combination with the 2 wolf heads, Fenrir heads, and the Majuro, I assume, on the hammer. So it's amazing. I wear it every day in the shower, to bed. Amazingly practical. Has a nice little weight to it. Yeah, very great. And I have the serpent bracelet with the head right here. So nice weight to it. Really amazing. And yeah, so go check them out. VikingTrinkets.com. Go to their website, and if you're going to purchase stuff, put in the code SMP10 for 10% off. And if you do get stuff from them, tell them that the Sagas boys sent you.
Check.
Cool. Well, I think it's time for, the segment.
This segment that everybody comes to this town to see is the Devil's Advocate. The Devil's Advocate! Man, he for Trivium!
Very good. Very good. So, let's see. So, worst track for me on this album would have to be between either Betrayal or The Heart From Your Hate. And that just goes to what the whole thing I've been complaining about all episode is the lyrical side of things, and only those two tracks really show it. I'm all for the human side of things, and it's good that Trivium are exploring new things. Who am I to talk? I'm not one of the biggest bands of the modern metal era, and they are. So obviously they're doing what's working for them. It's just as a fan of the olden style of them, I guess I can't help but be a little bit cynical. But yeah, it's an equal those two. For the same reason. Lyrically, I just think it's too human. Not enough fantasy elements to my liking, and yeah. So it's either 4 or 5. Choose either. I feel the same way about both. And the best track. Now this was good because as I was feeling a little bit deflated, a little bit, in my own little biased head, I came across a track that changed my opinion. It helped me change. It gave me the final glimpse of light. I'm like, oh shit, this is what I remember Trivium being. It's almost as like they gave a homage to their old selves. Like, all right, let's throw a track in there they must have been like, all right, we need at least one nostalgia track to give all the fanboy Shogun fucks like myself a little bit of a sonic time machine. And I feel like they really did that one with thrown into the fire. I feel like they're like, all right, this is how we used to sound. Let's revel in it to end the album off. And I was really impressed by the final track. It was hard hitting. It felt theatrical. It felt cinematic. It felt, fantasy-esque, Yeah, so magical. It felt like all those things. It felt like a real homage to how they used to sound. And yeah, so I was really happy that they ended the album with that. And I know there was a bonus track, Pillar of Serpents, which we just re-record from the Ember to Inferno, but I never checked that out, so I don't know. But the final song, yeah, was really good. It kind of ended the album on a bang for me, and yeah, I'm happy they had that, especially as the final track.
Sick. Yeah, I mean, like the Heart From Your Hate is just, it's a headbanger. That's what gets me on that track. But like again, like I said, I didn't read too much into the lyrics, and I've listened to this album since it was released until now. I still listen to it regularly, and it's just one of those songs that have the groove. So it doesn't really matter to me what else is going on as long as my head is bopping. So, but I get it. I get what you're saying. And yeah, no, that's a killer final track in the album. Like really, really, almost pegged it for me for my favorite. That and Wretchedness Inside is another killer song. It's just got that big mean. And Beyond Oblivion as well was another contender for me. But I'll quickly fly over my least favorite because it's still a killer song. There was just one bit I didn't like about this, and actually, funny enough, it is a lyric point. It's the lyric where he sings, "It's the best of where we're the best of friends at the worst of time." It wasn't necessarily the lyric, which was an unusual lyric for Trivium, but it was his delivery. There was just something I didn't sit 100% with me. But that is like one point of like of a song it is killer. It's a much slower groove to the rest of the album. I think that song has a slightly different vibe. Still a killer track. It just in an almost impeccable album, it's hard to choose. But my favorite track, and it was the track that very first song on this album I heard, and the first song that I ever heard Alex playing drums, and it's The Sin and the Sentence. And I literally cannot speak more about this man's involvement in the band and where he's after taking them on a whole other level of like, he'll go into the studio. There are songs in this album that he has done in 1 or 2 takes, like hands down, 1 or 2 takes from start to finish. And this is like mega technical. Like they threw, when he joined the band, they threw him like 10, 15 songs for a tour, and he had them down a week. You know, like this man is gifted. So you could literally just take everything else off this album and just give me the drums, and I'd listen to the drums as a whole album. Like, it's just amazing. Like, so yeah, my favorite track, Sin in the Sentence, because the delivery of everything is just amazing. There's like, you know, incredible vocals. There's a lot of power, and you can hear in the vocals that he's pushing himself into a zone where the technique is being thrown out the window, and he's getting more of a feral kind of like really fucking angry rangy. And there's a shit ton of these on the album as well. There's a shit ton of bitchin' solos all over this album. So yeah, man, my favorite, Sin in the Sentence. Boom.
You know, you talk about that's the first song you heard of the album. Well, of course, it's the first track.
I know.
Unless you somehow skip the first song.
Well, I have friends, man. You know, I've sometimes heard exclusives.
Fair enough, actually. Yeah. But did you get a VIP free trip to Tia?
No, I didn't. I'm still waiting. Here he comes.
Talk about having friends.
Well, speaking of friends, yes, Harry, if you're watching this, hook us up, brother, with a show. It would be a dream to play with you. Please.
That was a good show. I was just thinking, because wait, did you mention the song title of your worst track?
I did, yeah.
What'd you call it again?
Endless Night. Oh no, maybe I didn't say the title.
I was like, what song are you talking to? Endless Night, you know, I was just thinking as we were talking about that, you can't tell me now, obviously this whole episode I've been completely biased, but you can't tell me that line that you had a problem with, the way it was delivered. Just think about that line as a whole, just the lyrics, that line. You can't tell me that Shogun Matt Heafy wouldn't punch this Matt Heafy in the face for saying that line. You cannot tell me, like, if they're like past Heafy and modern Heafy, if they clashed and he heard that song, he heard that one lyric.
Yeah,
like,
man.
Like,
I because I am of the same generation as him, I can understand in a way, like, you know me, he's 37 now, a 27 or 26-year-old version of him would have a very different idea of the world. So we mature as we get, you know, turn into fine wine, you know.
I just can't get that part of my head. Fucking like, I think I would add this in my favorite, like, has to be top 5 favorite modern, I don't know what you call it, breakdown or fucking pre-choruses of all time, is when he goes, and I'll take their fucking heads. Like, just imagining just the brutality, I'll take their fucking heads. And I don't know, I keep going back because I was listening to that album the other day because I was into this album and I was like, well, if I'm gonna listen to Trivium, I have to listen to Shogun. And I was into it, and I was just like, that first song always gets to me because I'm not sure how much you remember of that first song, Kara's Goman, but it has like that slow build, down, 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 and then it goes up, dun, 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 and then it's like, I'll take their fucking heads. Oh fuck, it's yeah, I can't get that out of my head. Top 5 pre-chorus breakdown, whatever you call it for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see that it's also interesting because had I have got to Trivium first before you, we would have definitely thought Shogun. So it's like actually funny how that turned out. The Sin and the Sentence. And by the way, I found that album cover so bland.
Yeah,
wait, it's black. Basic. Oh no, brown. Yeah,
brown,
it's just beige. Like beige. No. Yeah,
so burgundy.
Yeah, it's a weird color. I mean, I guess they were going for a more, I don't know, simplistic vibe. It kind of reminds me of like if you look from far away, it kind of looks like the triangle from like an emo version of the album cover for Dark Side of the Moon. It's just like the triangle, but with no colors.
Yeah.
The straight cover of the sentence. Anyway, that's episode 59. For episode 60, we're going to have a band that I discovered thanks to Total Deathcore. They are a band called Skybus. They just released their latest EP called EP3. It's just called 3. 3 tracks on it. Very killer EP. I actually wrote a review for it already. Yeah, great guys. I've talked to one of them. They seem really nice. And I'm sure they'll be excited to be on the podcast. So, yeah, talking about first EP, I think, of the podcast. Yeah. Anyway, whether we can have time to have, whether we can make it to have them on or not, we're still going to talk about it. It's going to be a great EP. And so yeah, for our big episode 60, Skybius, sorry if I'm pronouncing the name wrong, 3. And yeah, obviously I'll send you the link to it, Ren, so you can check it out. Cool. Well, as we normally say here on Sagas, same time. Actually, before I go, even though they're not official sponsors, one day hopefully they can be. Give a shout out to New Japan Pro Wrestling. They're going through the New Japan Cup right now, and if you're somehow hearing this, I don't know how you would, but if you're somehow hearing this, good job. I love your company. You're the only company I watch at the moment, and right after this, as soon as I push end, I'm going back in my room, getting the iPad charged, and I'm going to watch the latest episode. So, good job, guys. Hopefully, one day they'll be sick to have you guys as sponsors. So yeah, just for the New Japan people out there, sayonara, goodbye, and to everyone else, same time, same place.
Awesome.